It happens in seconds. Moms and dads, you know that feeling. Your child gets lost in a store, maybe just wanders off for a second or two. Your heart stops, though. Panic sets in, and you think the worst. It's happened to most of us, but what if you had a secret weapon, an extra layer of safety, so to speak? How far would you go to keep your children secure?
Would you be willing to microchip them? Experts tell us the technology already exists. Turns out one Bay Area mother is all for it, and she shared her story with our Melanie Michael.
Chances are if you have a four-legged family member at home, it's already microchipped. And if the technology exists to save Fido in an emergency, what about microchipping your child?
I want my son back!
We've seen it in movies.
This is my daughter!
Over and over again, children gone missing. Stephanie's teenage daughter is a special needs child, prone to wander off and trust strangers. For that very reason, Stephanie wholeheartedly welcomes microchipping a child.
If a small chip the size of a grain of rice could have prevented a tragedy, I think most parents, hindsight would have said, I wish I would have done it.
A well-known technology expert out of Boston tells us microchipping poses little to no health risks and would act as a barcode of sorts.
Without question. It could save a life.
And it's the size of a grain of rice, very, very small. And the expert that we spoke with actually tells us that barcodes were introduced in the late 1960s, and back then people thought, this is way too invasive and too weird, and now barcodes are so commonplace that we don't even think about them anymore. The expert tells us this will happen sooner rather than later.
But, have companies actually tried this? That's a different scenario.
It did not go through, but you can bet somewhere, someday, someone is going to pull this off, and we could see those microchips in everyone.
That's interesting to think about. Melanie Michael live in Tampa. Thank you for that.
If you own a business in New York City, you could now face a fine for not using the correct gender pronoun when talking to transgender customers or workers. And these pronouns that we're talking about are very strange. I've never heard of them before.
Well, listen, if you go to, say, your boss or your landlord and you say, listen, I'd like to be referred to, refer to me as a woman, and the boss or landlord repeatedly does not do that, almost on purpose, that person could be in trouble.
Yeah, Greg and Rosanna, good morning to both of you. These guidelines seem to be the first of their kind in the country, and they come from the New York City Commission on Human Rights to protect the transgender community. There are about 75,000 transgender people living in New York City. So according to these guidelines, business owners and landlords in New York City can face fines of up to $250,000 if they intentionally or repeatedly refuse to address a transgender person with that person's preferred gender pronouns.
Transgender Canadians say it's legislation that is well overdue.
Consider how much things have changed in the last few decades.
This is a message to all Canadians that we live in a time where discrimination in any form is completely unacceptable.
To the index of other news tonight, an historic first for the Pentagon. The Senate confirming Eric Fanning as the new Secretary of the Army, making him the first openly gay leader of a branch of the U.S. military.
Take your clothes back. I'm not going to try anything on here anyway.
Off the top at 6, a Mesquite woman outraged when she says a business allowed a man in the women's dressing room.
Lisa Stickles told me she shops at this Ross a few times a week, but never again.
Take your clothes back. I'm not going to try anything on here anyway.
Lisa said Monday she heard a man in the women's dressing room and told a manager who went to check it out.
He came right back out and called me to the side and told me that he was representing himself as a woman today.
Lisa said she complained, stayed in the store, and called corporate long enough to see the man walk out.
And he was in no way dressed as a woman. He had on jeans, a t-shirt, 5 o'clock shadow, very deep voice. He was a man.
Ross didn't comment specifically on the incident, but told me they don't discriminate against the transgender community.
A District 51 high school is backtracking on a plan to ban flags from the school's premises after students questioned the school's patriotism. The school's principal says the ban was for the students' protection. Good evening. Thank you for making KKCO 11 News at 10 number 1. I'm Jean Reynolds.
And I'm Bernie Lang. Leave your flags at home, including your American flags. That's what one District 51 high school is telling its seniors just days before graduation.
3 students now feel a patriotic freedom has been lost.
I don't see how you can pull someone's right to walk in graduation because they were being patriotic.
I feel very disrespected that we cannot fly our country's flag in our own country.
School leaders at Fruita Monument High School just reversed a controversial flag ban. The ban was put in place saying the students could not wave flags, including the American flag, in the school's parking lot. Some said it was distracting. Seniors were told they could be expelled or not walk in their graduation ceremony.
Now, we want to know what you think about this one. Does your kid have one of these bubble maker guns? Well, don't let them take it to school because it could get them suspended. It happened to a 5-year-old in Brighton, and tonight Denver 7's Jacqueline Allen has the fallout as the district defends a decision critics say defies common sense.
This is that weapon that got the 5-year-old girl suspended, or one that looks just like it, a gun that shoots not bullets, but bubbles. It's a phone call that certainly burst this Brighton mother's bubble Monday morning.
Really, I'm in shock, and it is kind of funny that they would take it that far.
Zero tolerance policies often mean zero common sense.
ACLU's executive director says these out-of-proportion punishments have become a national embarrassment. Suspensions for pastry guns, Hello Kitty guns, even a finger pointed like a gun.
Quite a sight over New England overnight. I thought I was seeing things as the night sky was lit up by a meteorite.
Now, people in several states, including right here in Rhode Island, reported seeing the bright flash early this morning.
Guys, check this out. A meteor caught on camera overnight. Look at that.
Ooh, wow.
In Portland, Maine. This is dash cam video from a police officer's cruiser. The meteor could be seen as far as south as New Jersey and as far north as Nova Scotia. Saw some reports on Twitter. You know, people asking, what was that? Look at that.
That's insane.
Yeah, normally
it's just like a little street, but that was like...
That's pretty big.
So we jumped up and we looked out of our window, and there we saw this white fireball with a tail and like sparks coming off of it.
Susan Decker and her husband in Littleton, New Hampshire saw it, and so did thousands of others around the Northeast. Some people say the meteorite sounded like a big jet flying low in the sky. As for this most recent fireball, the American Meteor Society reported sightings in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and parts of Canada.
A Northern California town is under attack tonight by a raging swarm of killer bees.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I haven't. This is, a new situation that we're going to have to deal with.
Welcome back. A California neighborhood is hoping a bee invasion is coming to an end. It's believed the bees are killer bees. They've already killed 2 dogs and stung dozens of people.
No one's sure where these bees came from, but we know where they went. Into kitchen windows, people's faces. Got me right in the eye. And this mail carrier's hair.
I don't know what to do. I'm just running around, screaming.
They were super aggressive. They were literally like following us and going after us and banging on the window.
Los estudiantes afectados fueron auxiliados por sus compañeros, docentes y personal policial, quienes de manera inmediata acudieron al plantel para brindar el apoyo correspondiente.
Están diciendo que no levante.
Porque acá no están bien. Allá al otro lado.
Two dolphins, a mother and a baby, have been found dead in Elizabeth Quay. Tonight there's an investigation into what killed them.
Tim, we don't know if the dolphins died of natural causes or if they were poisoned by something in the water. Today, dozens of people saw the carcasses floating in the river near the Elizabeth Quay inlet.
These 24 pilot whales have all died after they wandered into shallow waters in the Gulf of California. 3 were able to be rescued, 2 adults and a calf, after being successfully directed to deeper waters. Seen here when rescue efforts were still underway, the whales died despite overnight attempts to move them away from shore. The exact reason for their migration into shallow water is unknown.
Also this morning, another major earthquake has jolted Ecuador just weeks after a quake in the same region caused this damage and killed hundreds of people. Today's quake was not as strong, but it did collapse some buildings and cause power outages.
Japan has been hit by another earthquake, this time a 5.6 magnitude trembler in the north of the country. The quake rattled Tsukuba, where the science and technology ministers from the group of 7 nations are meeting as we speak. The latest quake comes a month after 2 strong earthquakes struck the country's Kumamoto prefecture.